Welcome to Scream Therapy. I'm your host, Jason Schreurs. In October of 2018, I found myself in the hospital, sitting across from a psychiatrist who was telling me I had bipolar. I was sent home with a bunch of medication and laid on the couch for a week. I had my iTunes library on shuffle, trying to shake the hornet's nest from my head. Ever since I was a kid, I've been using loud music as a form of therapy. Punk rock and mental health have always been connected. This podcast looks at that connection through the lens of different guests. This is Scream Therapy.
Everybody makes a sound. The hardest lesson learned in life is that infallibility is a lie. 'Cause we don't leave this world without cuts and bruises and wasting someone's time. And I admit that I've been a bit too eager to catch the first few stones without realizing.
We all carry trauma with us, no matter how big or small. It's in the filing cabinet of our minds. Sometimes spilling out, sometimes locked in the deep. The question is, how do we keep our files in order? Singer-songwriter Black Guy Fawkes was bullied as a youth. When he found punk rock, he was excited. This could be the place. But it would take years for him to feel accepted within the scene. An incident of harassment from previous bandmates a few years ago was not only traumatic in itself, but brought back a lot of pain from being bullied as a kid. Then Fawkes met one of his punk heroes, Frank Turner, and there was a shift. The way that Turner and other prominent members of the punk scene accepted him gave Fawkes hope and inspiration. He finally knew he'd found his home, and that the people around him had his back. Therapy and medication also helped. Now when his trauma files get disorganized, Fawkes has the tools and support to put them right back where they need to be.
I'm Black Guy Fawkes. I live in Western Maryland, and I've been playing punk for almost all my life. I grew up listening to a lot of bands like Green Day. I loved My Chemical Romance. I loved Fall Out Boy. Middle school years and high school years, I got into like that era of music, that whole pop punk emo scene. And when I hit college in like 2012, I kind of fell in love with that. I just wasn't really resonating with some of the bands in there. I still love Green Day, I still love MCR, but around college, like my second year, my second year, I found Frank Turner. I found him. I found like Dave Hoss, Gaslight Anthem. I found Against Me. Like found all these bands around that scene. I found like I've related to that. I related to what they're saying about a lot more than what I was listening to at the time, like when I was younger. So I just feel like my sense of music and my taste in music just kind of grew from there in a more, I guess, more refined sense, if you will. And that's like how I kind of found punk, and I just been playing as Black Guy Fawkes for like the last 10 years now. I'm on my fifth record, and I've gotten to share the stage with like Frank Turner, with Chuck Reagan, with Dave Hoss, like all these bands I grew up listening to, and it's been a interesting journey. I started writing music for predominantly my own mental health. In high school, I was bullied quite a good bit. I didn't have that many friends growing up. When you're a black kid who likes punk rock, nobody's really going to gravitate towards you. So it's one of those things where when I found MCR, when I found Green Day and all them, I didn't have that many friends. I'll just lock myself in my room. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I lock myself in my room, listen to these records, and try to find some comfort in the fact that people feel the same way about me. And that kind of led the door for me to say, you know what, I want to write music. I want to make stuff for people that feel the same way I do. I was in and out of bands at that point. I tried to start my own, but they always kind of failed. When I got to college, I heard like bands like We the King is All Time Low, like Made to Pray, like some bands like from the era I just could not relate to anymore. I could relate to like this whole idea of the semi-misogynistic music that, and just kind of the redundancy of it. But when I found Frank, I just found more of a refined anger, more of a refined reason to sing, and I felt like that kind of opened doors for me, saying, you know what, I can still do this.
I'm curious to know about that position you're in, being a black kid and liking predominantly white music, almost 100% white music, and then also, maybe being looked down upon by the other side because you weren't listening to the kind of music that you're quote unquote supposed to listen to.
I found myself being just bullied constantly for what I was listening to and just for who I am as a person. And it got to a point where while I was listening to this stuff, people would just let me say this. One thing that really does bother me is the whole school shooter mentality around these days. Because back then I went to like always have the schools. I just was around fear of God like right in front of me all the time. And it got to a point where I remember this vividly. My freshman year, I was pulled into our vice principal's office or student affairs officer or whatever, and I was asked about if I had a hit list because people made a rumor that I was going to shoot up the school. And I had my locker searched through. I heard people come up to me in school, ask me what's going on, or just being really nosy about it. And I was kicked out for about being 3 days while I had my mom go up and just try to convince them to let me back in, just show that these things are not true at all. And there's no actual repercussion for the kids that were like perpetuating this. So there was stuff like that. I remember I've been pushing the mud. I had money stolen from me. My first ever guitar I had was acoustic Ibanez. And I remember that was stolen from me like my sophomore year of high school. And I remember kids thought it was a game, and I remember being them calling me, saying if I did not pay them $500 and they're going to destroy it. The bullying, and it was the fact that there's nobody in the school who would actually do anything about it. It was just always boys will be boys, and while on that end, I was suffering quite a good bit. And because of my mental health as well at that point, like I was doing bad. So I wasn't turning in homework. I just want to make friends, but I was failing in school because of that. My junior year, I remember my mom actually took me to therapy sessions, like for like a small bit of time. Like it was only for me like 3 or 4 weeks. And I was not taking it seriously at that point because I was just telling myself, I don't want to be here. I feel like there's something wrong with me. I feel like I need to. So I just kind of faked saying, hey, I'm doing better now, even though I really wasn't. It got slowly better from there, but I still was not taking care of myself the way I needed to at the time. I was also young as well, so I just really wasn't thinking any better. I just wanted to find other ways to help myself feel better. That's where I found music. That's where I found lock myself in my room was the best way for me to just express what I wanted. Just play guitar, listen to these bands, and just let out what I needed to.
So how much did the listening to punk rock, and I would imagine you're wearing punk shirts and stuff, how much did that contribute to being bullied? Do you think that's part of the reason why you're targeted, or
Again, I went to always campus school, so all the band shirts or whatever, like they were all hidden. Oh, I couldn't wear them around, but if we had like one day where you could wear whatever you wanted to, I'll have like a band shirt, but I'll also get made fun of for the band I was listening to, or just say how it's not real punk, how I wasn't a real punk, and like all these different things. I didn't really speak out about my own mental health. Like we had like these senior retreats that we went on where we got to open up and talk about that. I opened up about the fact that I was not doing well mentally. I was kind of suicidal in high school because I just kept dealing with the same constant picking, the same constant bullying, the same day by day trying to fit in and knowing that you can't because they just want to haze you. It was a lot for me. And I don't know about that my senior year, and there are some people that were really shocked by that. Like, and that want to talk to me about it, but I just felt like it was kind of too late to talk about it, honestly, because again, nobody was. The people who I tried to talk to about it, nobody was actually paying full attention. Nobody really cared. It was just try to get over it. Just try to be better. I'm like, there's no, I'm just stuck. There's no way for me to get better at this point besides just playing music.
so what was it about punk that you related to even when you first discovered it?
I discovered MCR. I discovered them like my middle school years, and I that's why I kind of started the Catholic school circuit because I was in the Catholic middle school. I saw the video for MCR's "I'm Not Okay," and I related to it a lot because of the fact that I also didn't feel like I was fitting in middle school either, and just see them like sing about this stuff, I found comfort. I found like this sense of you're not alone in this. Like we get it. I found this refuge when I was young. I felt like I found a music source where I can be who I want to be and not be judged for it. But again, like when you get to high school, when you have that mentality and people make fun of you for that mentality, it messes with you a lot. And it
Yeah.
well, that's pretty much what I found with punk. I just found refuge. I found a place for me just to be myself.
It almost sounds like there was two forces, like a good force and a bad force, and the bad force was the bullying and the picking at you, and then the good force was the punk rock, and it was almost like trying to balance them out, starting to write music, and that was a powerful thing, it sounds like as well.
It was, and it punk for me was the fact that I could just go in my room, just put on these records, just play my guitar, just be who I was. That was a therapeutic thing. But I also kind of wish I had people that would kind of join in with me when it comes to that. I live close to a record theater, famous venue in Baltimore, well, in the Towson area, and I will go down there predominantly all the time. If I had a chance, it was like $5 or $10 to get to a show. There were people playing. I always want to go just check it out. I've just found comfort in there for a little bit. But also found like trying to be involved with that scene. I just always felt like I was just kind of the outcast because everybody had their cliques, everybody had their friend groups. And I just was just again I was just the outlier. People just wanted to pick on at these shows, and I spent a lot of time in that venue. I spent a lot of time just trying to visit, just trying to see whatever shows like I can, and just spend as much time as I could just going to concerts and just going to shows because I just felt good being around music.
When did you feel like you had been accepted? Did it take going to so many shows and meeting a few people, or when did that switch come?
I'll be real. I didn't really feel accepted into punk until I would say until 3 years ago. I have my band. I have my friends here, and I love them. But really didn't feel my last year of college started Black Guy Fawkes. While I had my band, I still didn't feel at home because I just felt like I was just going to be playing in the same area for the rest of my life. Because I was just playing these shows. It's like 3 hour gigs, all cover gigs, just to make rent money and just to make money. But I wasn't fully happy. It wasn't until I was discovered by Asbestos Records. My good friend Matt Flood runs it. I met him in 2023 just via Twitter, and we just started talking online. Then after, because of him, that's why I ended up meeting Frank Turner, who invited me to go play at his festival last evening. There are three people who I owe a lot to when it comes to how I write music and who I am today and where I am today. And one of them, well, two of them are Matt Flood, and the other one is Frank Turner.
Hey yay, friends and Romans, countrymen. Hey yay, punks and skins and journeymen. Hey yay, my sisters and my brethren, the time is coming near.
I can say with beyond a shadow of a doubt, when it came to Frank vouching for me and Flood vouching for me, like they put me onto to a whole big community. And in this community that I'm in right now, I find more acceptance to be myself. I found community like through Frank. I was able to play with Frank, play with like Chuck Reagan, play with Dave Foss, like all these acts I grew up listening to, and it feels good to be in that scene. And it was a very important time for me as well because at that point in 2023, when I met Flood and when I met Frank, I was also actively in therapy and back on my medication, which I desperately needed. And they both play a very big part in just my healing journey in general. Because at that point, when I was trying to get better, because I had a really rough 2 years prior to that. But they were part of me just showing, hey, you're not alone. We're with you, and we support what you're doing, and what you're doing has legs and also merit as well. And I
Nice.
owe those two a lot for that.
So what was it like when you first met Frank Turner?
It, I emailed him throughout the years, just as a fan and everything like that. But I didn't meet him for the first time until like I stepped foot in Anaheim at Lost Evenings. I remember vividly. I was just walking down the hallway to go to the green room, like in the House of Blues in Anaheim, and there's really nobody there. And I was just walking down to get to the green room. I just see him walking over towards me. This may sound so. Let me say this: without Frank Turner, there will be no Black Guy Fawkes at all. Because I've kind of modeled this whole project after listening to Love Iron Song for the first time and wanting to just do stuff like the way he does it. So walk him waving at me, and then him inviting me to me meeting him was like me meeting God for the first time. I admire him, and he's now my friend, but also he was my biggest hero. Like, he is my hero, and for him to have that merit and to invite me out to do that just meant the world to me. And again, like 2 years prior to that, I had a rough time in dealing with people within the scene, just dealing with some demons. There's one point at Lost Evenings where he invited me out on stage to sing a song with him and play harmonica during it. And that happened on September 23rd, 2023, and it was like the best day of my life. I'm at this moment where I'm just sharing the stage and just playing these shows with my heroes, now a friend of mine.
Your latest album is all about mental health. What was it like writing a whole album about that? Did it get tiring or it must have been challenging?
The last two records, so this record, The Misery Suite, and Intrusive Lullabies, they are kind of about my own mental health journey. Back in 21 and 2022, I was dealing with some online harassment. I was dealing with a old backing band member of mine, like creating these like online rumors about me. That happened 20 and 21, and because of that, I almost took my own life because of it, because I just felt like my life was over and I didn't know what to do. And then in 22, all that was behind me. I found a band who I went on tour with in 22. I thought I was brought on because of my merit, because of my music, because of what I write, and I just slowly realized, just through wording, just through how they presented on stage, I was brought on because I was a black male, and because they want to find a way to exploit that. I would hear them in interviews just kind of bragging about what they've done for me, even though they really didn't do anything besides just kind of virtue signaling the whole time. I just felt used at that point. And but when my old drummer brought those rumors towards the band I was touring with, they all kind of doxed me, and they all just kind of just left. I just felt really abandoned. I just felt scared. I just felt alone. I just didn't know what to do. I just again, I feel like my whole career and life were over, and because of that, I tried to take my own life again in November, well, Black Friday of 22. And I wrote Intrusive Lullabies. I wrote that record about where my headspace was at the time, and it was about the fact that I couldn't sleep at night because I just kept reliving these things that my drummer and this other band were putting me through. And I just remember where I just felt like this sense of imposter syndrome. I just felt like I had everybody leaving me at the time, and I just felt like there's nothing else for me. But I just felt like I had one need just to carry on. I didn't know why, but I just felt like I needed to carry on.
Yeah, that sounds really, really painful. I'm thank you so much for being here and talking to me about it. It's doesn't sound easy at all.
It's not, and it was. That's why I started writing for The Misery Suite, and it's a concept record about my therapy sessions. But at the crux of it, like while it's about active mental health, and when you listen to it closely enough, it is about my journey of talking myself out of necessarily like panic attack and just struggling with this new lifestyle that I have, where I am meeting my heroes, I am playing with them, I am doing like all this cool stuff, but I deal with this fear of what happens if people leave me again? What happens if I am actively left alone again? And just left my own devices. What happens if I act like myself and then they don't respond to it? And it's about my fear of just abandonment and my fear of isolation and my anxiety when it comes to it. To write about it, let alone sing about it, it is hard sometimes. But it's also, but again, it's like this very kind of therapeutic thing. And the one thing that kind of gives me hope is the fact that there are people that I've met throughout the last few years that listen to these records. Well, the new one, I granted, the new one just came out, but they're listening to these records and and people can find themselves in it. And I feel that makes me feel less alone than anything else right now. It's the fact that while I'm sad people feel the same way as I do, I feel less alone knowing that it's not just a me thing. Everybody goes through this at some point.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage and strength to put yourself out there and be a person who can talk about those things publicly and helping a lot of people too. I mean, I think that we often don't realize how much effect we do have on the world with what we do, especially artists and musicians.
Right. I remember like the last day a lot in Anaheim, I kind of told Frank like what his music meant to me and like what he means to me as a person. And there's points when I'm playing these shows and people are walking up to me just telling me like their own mental health journey. And it makes you just think back to like where I was when I discovered Frank and what I always wanted to say to him and like things like that, and puts things kind of in perspective for me. I'm glad to see people are finding hope and just finding ways to make it through the day, like through myself or through anybody else's. Music has always been, especially like punk and rock, like I said, it's a refuge. It's always been like this really music for me does not discriminate. And it doesn't matter like what social class or what sexuality, what gender or whatever you come from. When you go to a show, you're there for the same reason: to drink, to dance, to have a good time, and you get to find just camaraderie in it. And finding my community in punk rock recently, where I meet people like Frank, where I met people who run like Puzza Fest, like all the like everywhere around the states in the U.S. or Canada or even overseas too. Like I'm finding like more people that are kind of like me, and it helps me know that I'm not alone, and the fact that I have people out there that are still looking out for me at the end of the day, and people that want me to be all right. I want them to be all right as well. I'm glad I found a community where I can fully and utterly just be myself and just not fear that judgment anymore.
Yeah.
People want to just be their own selves with me too.
Yeah, we're all looking for a safe place to be where we have that comfort. And you said before, refuge. For me, one of the tricky parts about trauma is just that if there's reminders of it, or if I come into contact with it again, then I'm kind of back where I was when the trauma first occurred, which is kind of the natural response of the amygdala in your brain that does that. There's a balance between me like navigating that stuff and trying to like, not involve myself with it, but there's also the element of like I have to learn how to face this, be able to face those triggers that come up, and I'm wondering what you think about that.
I recently had to face some of those triggers. Honestly, it's painful too, and it's weird. Like so, I've been out of therapy now for almost a full year. And even after the first year of it, I realized kind of how my mind works. I need to feel what I need to at the time, and then after the day after that, I feel that much better. But when it comes to again dealing with trauma from 21 to 22, I it takes around a little bit longer, and it takes a little bit longer for me to kind of break through that. I just know that things aren't the same as they were 3 years ago. Things are better now, but it's hard not to think about over your life, especially when they kind of pop up. And last week was it this week too? I had to tell myself that no matter how much you think you're going to be over it, or how much you think you don't have to talk about it, you're still have to talk about it at some point, or at least have to deal with it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just part of you now. And when trauma happens, when you get triggered, when that trauma comes up again, you can either dwell on it and just live in that for God knows how long, or you can find ways to help break that cycle and just get through it and just talk to a friend or just usually if I feel like I'm having a rough day, even when I went through last week, I just go on a long drive, just kind of clear my head, just play. I have what's called a Bad Brain Day playlist. It has like Frank Turner on it, his song Undefeated. It has like Mountain Goes This Year. It has Les Moore said One Hand in My Pocket. If I'm feeling it, I'll just usually just go on a drive. Or I'll talk to a friend, or I'll just like scream it out.
What would you say to someone who is in the position that you were in when you were younger and getting bullied and feeling like a total outcast? I mean, other than following your heart with music and stuff, what would you tell them?
Ooh, that's that's a good question. I will say this: when I was in high school, we took a class my senior called Death and Dying, and we learned about how people cope with grief and not necessarily trauma, but how to cope with death and like stuff like that too. And it always told you don't use cliches. Just have an open ear. Don't try to give advice, unsolicited advice when it's not given. But I tend to follow that rule because again, I don't know what the full extent of what people may be going through at the time. But if I had to tell somebody that is being bullied like I was, well, first I'll tell them don't give up and you have too much to live for. But I would just listen to what they're going through. I wouldn't tell them. I wouldn't give them advice on how they can fix the situation because nobody wants to hear that. Some people know, but they also don't want to be told that. Sometimes they just want to sit a little bit. So I'll just be an open ear, just be a shoulder to lean on or to cry on, and have them get it out.
Yeah.
Nobody will let me get it out. I would personally just be an open ear.
This
That was my conversation with Black Guy Fawkes. Black Guy Fawkes, FAWKES.bandcamp.com. For more episodes of Screen Therapy, go to screentherapyhq.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Big news, the Screen Therapy book is available now. Screen Therapy, A Punk Journey Through Mental Health, tells my story and the stories of others who use punk as a catalyst for mental health. Like this podcast, it links the community-minded punk scene with the mental wellness of the punks who belong to it. To order the book, go to screentherapyhq.com. For merch, check out screamtherapy.threadless.com. Okay, enough promoting. It's time for some thanking. Thank you for listening to Screen Therapy. Doing this podcast and talking to folks about punk rock and mental health has been a crucial part of my own mental stability, and it means so much to me that you're out there listening. Screen Therapy is created in the Cathet region of coastal British Columbia, Canada, on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin Nation. Contact me at screentherapyhq.com or email me at screentherapypodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk about punk rock and mental health. Until next time, take care and be well.